Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The WBC champion Deontay Wilder has lashed out at Tyson Fury, who he will not be fighting next. The WBC confirmed Fury and Wilder the rematch is not happening next. That has been confirmed. The rematch is off for now.
To this day!
Wilder lashing out on social media. So a post that Tyson Fury had done a few days ago saying, "I will fight anyone in the boxing world. Don't use boxing politics as an excuse not to challenge me, the lineal heavyweight champ." Wilder, after the news that the rematch was off for now, responded, "You sorry mother. We knew you only said this because you knew you wasn't fighting me next. Hashtag clout chaser. You requested a warm-up fight first," and then three laughing, crying emojis. "I don't blame you though. I probably would too if I saw my brains splashed all over the canvas. Hashtag timber, hashtag b, hashtag run ho run, hashtag no smoke wanted." But Tyson Fury, not to be outdone, he has responded to Deontay Wilder. "Get yourself a bit more well-known in America first, kid, and then I'll give you another chance. I already beat you, and the world knows it, and so do you." And then the sort of winking emoji. "Must be hard for you that a British fighter has taken over the USA." And the flag, the winking emoji. "Watch me whip. Hashtag only in America at ESPN." Tyson Fury there biting back at Deontay Wilder, who is not happy. Deontay Wilder, his face is probably going to more resemble, after this news, this more recent Instagram post that he put up. I can imagine he wouldn't have been a happy guy. And what he's wearing here is that fighting till this day, a hoodie from that Radio Raheem sort of outburst that Deontay Wilder had in the lead up to the first fight with Fury on December 2018.
To this day! To this day!
I can well imagine he was kind of more worked up in that way, given some of the tenor of his comment to Tyson Fury, calling him a sorry motherfucker. So if we examine that, Deontay Wilder, who was expecting the rematch, who had all his eggs in the rematch basket, is left without a fight now, and left with fewer options, presumably, at least on the money front, than Tyson Fury, who's signed a massive deal, rumoured to be worth well over $100 million in the lifetime of that deal, should he keep winning, meet all the milestones, and so on. So Tyson Fury is clearly saying from his comments that he's more well-known in America now than Deontay Wilder, but also that the world knows him. The world knows that Fury beat Deontay Wilder, and a British fighter has taken over the USA. Can he really say that he's taken over the USA? I mean, that was his first pay-per-view there. It was a draw. I mean, 325,000 buys. It was a decent result commercially. And this is what happens. The further you get from an event, memories start to fade a bit. The hype around someone and an event, it really does start to just sort of ebb away. Not as many people are talking about the rematch, and now that it hasn't been made, will it ever get made? I just don't know. And from Deontay Wilder's statement, it would be hard to see him going over to ESPN for whatever deal he's been offered by Bob Arum, Top Rank and ESPN. I just can't really see it. Deontay Wilder has been pretty loyal to, his setup with the PBC, his advisor Al Heyman, more recently fighting on Showtime, almost exclusively in about his, last 10 or 12 fights. He's had a couple of other fights here and there through the PBC on other networks, but mostly it has been Showtime. So given Tyson Fury is locked up in what is 2 fights a year for the next, few years, hard to see this fight ever happening. So a warm-up fight first, well, it might be quite a few warm-ups and then no rematch. That's just the reality now. And that question about, well, what next for Deontay Wilder? Because Dominic Breazeale is waiting in the wings, really waiting in the wings. He said a number of things on social media and in interviews. Here's a tweet from a couple of days ago. "Whether it's Bronze Bomber or Dillian Whyte, my eyes are on that green belt prize." But a guy who has responded is former Deontay Wilder opponent Luis Ortiz, and he wants that rematch with Deontay Wilder. With Fury out of the picture now, for now at least, Luis Ortiz is one of a small number of potentially viable options, and Ortiz has sort of said, well, I'm one of the few guys that actually wants to face Deontay Wilder a second time after having, been punched by him. Other guys just don't want it again. And Tyson Fury is in that boat. And when he was asked, well, do you want this, fight with Deontay Wilder next? And, are you looking to get that fight? He sort of said, well, I got to get my fight out of the way with Christian Hammer this weekend. But that is something that I do want. I have been calling for. And this is something that the networks and the fans, should be calling for, because I want to sort of have that fight. And this is something where I think there will be some interest from a section of fans for that rematch with Luis Ortiz. There was, much like the Tyson Fury fight, there was some controversy in the Ortiz fight. What was it? Into the 8th round, Deontay Wilder given a few extra seconds after he'd taken a battering in the 7th round. Doctor comes to the canvas, checks him out. There's a few extra seconds of rest. And Luis Ortiz had Deontay Wilder hurt at that point. But also, Luis Ortiz was pretty much, as he's already admitted, pretty gassed at that point. He's admitted he made some mistakes. He probably should have got Deontay Wilder out of there when he had the chance, and ultimately, because he didn't, he lost. And he's been saying, I know what my mistakes were. I can sort of rectify. I will beat him in a rematch. So this, this guy is gagging to have a rematch with Deontay Wilder. But do I have an overwhelming desire to see it again right now? And I'm sort of on the fence about it. Because since that fight, Luis Ortiz has fought Razvan Kajanu, he's fought Travis Kaufman, and now Christian Hammer. Not really the sort of fights that we wanted to see Luis Ortiz in for the most part. And there has been some issues for Ortiz getting fights, all that sort of stuff. But there's also, with his sort of career, the way it's been managed, they haven't helped themselves. I touched on this on a video just last night. The promotion of him and the way that they promote him to fans and try to build a profile, it's almost non-existent. It's just working with a few YouTube channels and a few websites, and that sort of seems to be the strategy, the sum total of it. And it just doesn't cut it these days. Doesn't even have his own social media accounts. It's managed by his manager, and it's pretty threadbare for weeks on end. There's only been one clip coming out from his current training camp. It kind of says it all. So do I need to see it next, given he's got the strength of, let's say that he does beat Christian Hammer and he beat Travis Kaufman and he Razvan Kajanu? They're not the sort of lead-in fights that, kind of like Jarrell Miller fighting Anthony Joshua off the back of recent fights against Bogdan Dinu and Thomas Adamek. It kind of doesn't cut it for me. It doesn't get me excited again about that rematch. But say, for example, if Luis Ortiz had faced a Adam Kovnatsky or even a Charles Martin, someone who was a cut above where he's been fighting the recent guys, that probably would put him more in the frame. And Adam Kovnatsky is an interesting option for me to face Deontay Wilder next if Dominic Breazeale isn't in the picture, simply because he hasn't fought Wilder before. Luis Ortiz has, and he was knocked out in that fight. It's kind of like the whole Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua thing. We've kind of been there, done that, got the postcard. Even though a guy like Whyte has performed since he was knocked out, there's just not enough buzz around that sort of fight, and potentially this Ortiz fight, for fans to really demand the rematch. So Luis Ortiz wants it, but I don't know how much fans necessarily want that compared to other fights. I would think it'd be a relatively even split across some of the options that are available. I mean, you've got Dillian Whyte. He will probably want to face Deontay Wilder. Dominic Breazeale, he will want this fight. He is the WBC mandatory. Maybe that fight with Dillian Whyte doesn't go ahead. Adam Kovnatsky, that's another option. Maybe that's a fight away, or maybe 2 fights away, but he's definitely in the queue now to get a shot at the WBC champion. So Luis Ortiz isn't necessarily head and shoulders above the rest here. But Tyson Fury, well, it's very interesting with some of his comments. He certainly has been gassing himself up after that fight and his place within the division, or really what he thinks of himself now, that he's taking over America, taken over the USA. Maybe that is a step too far at this point. He's certainly made some inroads, but that's not to say that he's taken over. Yeah, so what do you make of it all? Deontay Wilder lashes out at Tyson Fury.
To this day!
And Fury responds in kind, isn't taking it. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.
To this day!